Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. We will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities. I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. There's no nation like our nation. Americans are explorers, builders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and pioneers. The spirit of the frontier is written into our hearts. I stand before you now as proof that you should never believe that something is impossible to do. In America, the impossible is what we do best. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly. And nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours. And our golden age has just begun.
President Trump reestablishes American strength. Welcome back to More War Monday. The Rob Maness Show is live on Worldview Tube, our X Spaces simulcast, and Truth Social Plus, where our live stream at Worldview Tube is running 24/7. Well, we're back. And what will we see from our adversaries as day 7 today of the Trump administration unfolds? China has already warned Secretary of State Marco Rubio to behave as he articulates America's new policy position of reestablishing peace through strength and focusing on deterring them. The CIA has finally come clean and assessed the COVID virus was more than likely from the Wuhan lab, confirming that President Trump was correct to call it the China virus. But did they conduct biological warfare on the rest of us? And what should the U.S. and our allies do about it, if anything? Colombia's socialist president tried to confront America by canceling 2 deportation flights in midair after he had already approved them. And he had some disastrous consequences because America immediately applied strength in their response. Well, finally, President Trump has floated the idea of moving the Palestinians out of Gaza and into Egypt, Jordan, or other countries in the Arab world, stirring up the leftist world order and exposing that not even Arab countries want them because they're terrorists. Well, my friend, retired Colonel John Mills, is back with us today to discuss all this and more. Mills is a national security professional with service in 5 areas: the Cold War, the peace dividend, the war on terror, the world in chaos, and now great power showdown in the fight to save our republic. He's the former director of cybersecurity policy, strategy, and international affairs at the Department of Defense. John is a senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy, and his latest book, War Against the Deep State, is a must-read. in these uncertain times. And you can use promo code Manus if you go find his book on his website. Colonel Mills, John, welcome back to the Rob Manus Show. Hope you're staying warm up there.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. It's actually the snow is receding. It was pretty bad here, and I'm in Northern Virginia, just outside of D.C. It was bad, but yeah, use that promo code. Definitely go to Lindell My Store and get signed copies of the book there. But yeah, thank you, Rob. I'm honored to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. You know, I know you're very busy, but I had to. You know, this isn't on my list, but I saw your post about the snowflake, and I have to show folks that my signed copy of Rumsfeld's Rules sits on my desk. And Don Rumsfeld was Secretary of Defense twice, and he used to write these snowflakes, and Pete Hegseth wrote his first one. What do you think about his first snowflake, John?
Yeah, I didn't want to use the term snowflake. I actually appreciated Secretary Rumsfeld's snowflakes. He was trying to get his arms around the singular biggest bureaucracy in the universe, the Department of Defense. Now you say, well, I thought the U.S. government. Well, but the U.S. government is, departments and agencies and independent agencies. The singular biggest is the DoD. All his questions, I had to run the response package to a number of them. So his last snowflake, I asked him to autograph, and I have back in my storage files right back there. But Pete Hegseth was epic what he put out about DoD does not equal DEI. Basically. It is over. Anybody who attempts to camouflage, continue in another name will be gone. And there's actually I've already seen a posting. Somebody in the Department of the Army put out a memo after Secretary Hegseth's posting and said, we're renaming. So obviously poor staff work. There's always 10% who don't get the tweet or X or memo. The secretary made it pretty clear, and people will go, well, hey, but that's not right. They can't do that. DEI was not law. It was policy. You bet the Secretary of Defense can make that statement. Absolutely. You bet the Secretary of Defense can dissolve these offices. Absolute legal authority. And, it's one of the biggest, easiest ways to reorganize the civil service organization is by essentially, you're not supposed to target individuals, but you just target offices. And so one of the acting seniors in the Department of the Army put out a very unwise memo. I think there's going to be repercussions for that. But again, absolute authority by a Secretary of Defense to eliminate organizations. And anybody who's trying to hide it, I guarantee it's not going to go over well. This administration is extremely serious about destroying all vestiges of DEI and CRT, which was policy, not law.
Yeah, and I really appreciated his those who do not comply will no longer work here. Very clear statement. And I think some senior leaders in the United States Armed Forces, all departments, the Air Force had some challenges over the weekend. He had to publicly reverse a commander yesterday that took the Tuskegee Airmen and Women Air Service pilots historical videos out of basic training in some form of malicious compliance, saying it was required by President Trump's executive order, which of course it was not, and everything. So it's an interesting. We live in interesting times, and I'm wondering. You are an expert, really, on China and the Pacific region and the threats there and our defenses there. And I wanted to give the audience an opportunity to listen to your thoughts on. First of all, Secretary Rubio was told. In essence, by I think it was the deputy foreign minister or assistant foreign minister of China, that you better behave quite frankly, depending on the translation that you read about it. But I think that's pretty close from everything that I've been able to put together. What do you think that they're going to do from the way they behave towards us and in the South China Sea, towards the Philippines, towards Taiwan? Will there be any changes, or is this confrontational approach like what we've started out with Rubio going to continue? Because I don't think we're going to be like Blinken and company and put up with it.
Well, okay. So I believe the Trump administration has said they do not support the independence of Taiwan. I don't think that should be confused with if Taiwan, that means we won't, if I may, that means we won't encourage or cheerlead Taiwan's independence. Now, if Taiwan wants to be independent, that's a different matter. We have several laws in effect on Taiwan: the Taiwan Relations Act, the Taiwan Travel Act, and a number of elements of the last 3 or 4 National Defense Authorization Act, National Authorizations Acts. I don't think when they said we do not support Taiwan's independence, that was not a green light for China to invade in any way, shape, or form. I think it would have extremely dangerous consequences if China interpreted it that way. China wants to stake out their claim. They're saying, "Well, hey, I can just imagine in the CMC, which is their senior level military body, the Central Military Commission. They're probably going, well, President Trump is declaring things the Gulf of America. He's telling Panama what to do. With a single tweet, he shellacks the president of Colombia, Petro, who is now there's now a joint call from both parties for him to step down, just like Trudeau. So they're going, well, that must mean we can have Taiwan. Oh boy, they better not make that mistake. That is not what the Trump administration is saying, and so I think they better think long and hard before they think they have some kind of green light for kinetic. Now I did just a couple of days ago, they did break another undersea cable. Now there's some who are saying it was just a maintenance issue, and there's possibilities that undersea cables do break, they do age, they do degrade. Yeah. But previously there was a willful break by a Chinese ship. So I think the Chinese are trying to figure out how much play space they have at this point in time.
Yeah, the position that the administration put out really is the status quo, right? I mean, that's standard U.S. policy, is that we don't advocate for the independence of Taiwan, but we support their desire to defend themselves, those kind of things, and we don't support the Chinese communists from taking it back by force, right? I mean, that's pretty much.
No, I don't think we do. I don't think that's actually explicit in U.S. law. Coercion or military action. And some people want to quibble. I think it's pretty clear in U.S. law. We will come to Taiwan's defense if there is a coercion or military assault. So I think, and I think arms sales are going to continue. The first batch of M1 tanks has shown up, 38 of the 108 that are supposed to arrive. I've seen nothing but increased arms sales to Taiwan, and there's a 20 billion plus backlog of orders. So I think nothing but increased defense sales to Taiwan. And, Taiwan has paid for all these items. We shouldn't be, I know we got a situation in the Middle East going on with our good strategic partner, Israel. Ukraine should be winding down, but we got to figure out how to ramp up our industrial base. Just like M1 tanks, there's like 10 countries that have orders for M1 tanks in, and our puny tank plant is Lima, Ohio. We're also making the M10 the first light tank in 50 years. We're making there. And so we got to increase Lima, Ohio significantly and probably bring in a second production facility.
Yeah, the Chinese are going to see a massive change in our approach, I think, from a strength perspective towards them specifically. And after this break, we'll see a little clip about the new CIA's new assessment about the COVID-19 virus. And I think that's indicative of this change, including reshoring and building back up our industrial complex so we can do the things you're talking about, John. We'll be right back with retired U.S. Army Colonel John Mills. We're talking the new strength of America as put out by the 47th President of the United States here on Worldview 2.
Right out of the gate, come out with this new intelligence that the CIA has concluded the deadly COVID-19 pandemic arose likely from the leak out of a laboratory in Wuhan, as our audience expected. Tell me the significance of the CIA now confirming this, sir.
Well, it's one of the things President Trump and I talked about. Part of what we have to do is we have to restore Americans' trust in our own institutions, like the intelligence community and law enforcement, and that includes the CIA. And, you know, one of the things that the president stressed, you know, the purpose of the CIA is to protect Americans, to keep us safe from foreign threats and foreign adversaries. But we also need to be truthful with Americans, and he has stressed to me and others that, you know, these aren't mutually exclusive missions. We can do both. And so in the case of the CIA, which is the best foreign intelligence service in the world, after 5 years to not have a public assessment, to be honest with the American people about where the likely source of a pandemic that killed millions around the world, including 1 million Americans, and really impacted all 345 million Americans in some way. People lost jobs, they lost houses, they lost their health, they lost their businesses, all of that. And so I had the opportunity on my first day to make public an assessment that actually took place in the Biden administration. So it can't be accused of being political, and it does assess. The CIA has assessed that the most likely cause of this pandemic that has wrought so much devastation around the world was because of a lab-related incident in Wuhan.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday, and my contributor guest, retired U.S. Army Colonel and former senior DOD defense official John Mills, is with me for a short period of time today to talk about these changes. And John, I think Director Ratcliffe releasing this report, which was done, he pointed out, in the Biden administration, it's not political, but just telling the truth to the American people, which many of us were pretty sure we were right anyway, but to release that, I think that will go a long way to rebuilding trust, but also to rebuild the confidence of our enemies in the United States of America, don't you think? I mean, as we turn towards China and complete that pivot that's supposed to have been done a long time ago, and do things like build the defenses for our air bases and ports in the region and on the West Coast and build that Iron Dome. And I think the president's going to sign an executive order on today. China is going to see that. And this report being released, I think, is a key piece to that messaging, isn't it, for them?
Thank you. And you and I sat on a Team B report. That was essentially our assessment 4 years ago, was that, yes, this was, I mean, one of the very likely a lab leak, if not intentional, but it did definitely come from the lab. And we still need some accountability. Why did it take them this long? You know, we're spending $106 billion a year on the intelligence community. You know, almost $1 trillion a year on defense, $106 billion. You know, the FBI gets $11 billion a year. I'm not feeling, you know, 1.2 trillion worth of effectiveness. We gotta have some accountability. Why was this slow rolled? Why was this silenced? Why was this story spiked? We need some accountability. So we can't just totally forgive and forget and move on. We need accountability, and anybody who was stifling a story needs to be gone. I don't want them anywhere close to a U.S. government computer anymore.
Yeah, with Congresswoman Gabbard is coming up for a confirmation hearing, I think Thursday of this week. She's the nominee for Director of National Intelligence. Do you think there's any hope at all of getting down to the bottom of the why this thing was held? I mean, I don't expect the CIA director to be able to release that type of information, but the DNI is the oversight. I mean, she's going to be the boss of the intelligence community. I do have a reasonable expectation, don't I, that the truth about this will be come out and people will be held accountable, right?
ICAs, Intelligence Community Assessment. So it really is a product of the DNI and the 18 entities, of which the CIA is one of those 18. However, the CIA still has immense influence among those 18. Yeah, I mean, we needed accountability of what was going on here with the information, and accountability on a number of matters. But we need to get Tulsi Gabbard into the seat. Need to get so John Ratcliffe is in the seat already. We just need to get his boss, which is the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard. We need to get all these people in their seats.
Yeah. So we have, you did a great article, I think about a week and a half ago, about the need to have actual defensive measures, both passive and active, taken on American airfields, our ports, those kind of capabilities in the Pacific region specifically. Do you think that we are going to be able to see some rapid movement on the need to do those types of construction projects, or will we still see this kind of slow roll of this effort?
Well, I mean, you provided some great content to that article that appeared in Newsmax Platinum. Thank you, Rob. Work like this would be what's called the MILCON. I don't mean to be a budget wonk here and a policy wonk, but it would be in the MILCON. You talk about the swampiest part of the DoD budget. It's MILCON. I mean, I tell you what, and why? Because all the U.S. reps and senators want to see that MILCON spent in their jurisdictions, in their constituency areas. So they fight endlessly over that. They're going, hold it, I'm spending, you want me to spend, $500 million, on, hardened shelters for Guam? What is Guam? Well, those are actually American citizens. That is an American territory. As long as we're going to be making Greenland and Canada an American state, I'd say let's elevate Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands, and hey, let's ask the people of Taiwan. But yeah, MILCON. We need to harden let's do it in this order. We need to disperse, harden, and camouflage. And we've been identifying this. I've done a number of articles on this over the last 5 years. The Committee on Present Dangers identified this. We are woefully underprepared and in the Pacific region. And it was the Hudson Institute that released a big report about construction in the Pacific. And I think the metric was for the cost of striking one F-35 or one B-21 bomber, the amount of hardened shelters they could make was staggering. I mean, it was like almost the entire hardening of Andersen Air Force Base in Guam could be paid for by building one less bomber. Because the studies have shown that almost all of our equipment losses, in case something breaks out in the Pacific, in the Western Pacific, all of our aircraft, they said like the majority in the wargaming, 80 to 90% of the aircraft we lose will be on the ground getting caught by Chinese missiles. So we really need to harden our facilities. By the end of the Cold War in Europe, we had hardened facilities everywhere. And now you look at Andersen, I don't think there's a single hardened facility on Andersen. It's embarrassing. We have some on Kadena, Okinawa, but that's one facility, and that place is going to get leveled in case kinetic starts. So we need to disperse, we need to harden, need to camouflage, and it's going to be in military construction, one of the most debated upon spending elements of the Department of Defense, but we need to do this fast.
Yeah, we do. I've written on it several times myself over the last 5 years, and have had you on the show a couple of times in the last year and a half about it. It's really not that hard, because we actually have mothballed facilities from a plant perspective that we could go in and refurbish. Now we are building the new airfield on Tinian, I think, where bombers flew from famously in World War II. But that's the only one. And we have airfields all over the Pacific that we have used in the past that could be beefed back up for dispersal airfields. Especially while we're constructing hardened shelters. So yeah, we've got to really get to that. I want to get your thoughts on this Iron Dome concept that the president is going to set the objective for the entire United States. And first of all, is it a valid assumption that our territories like Guam would be included in such a system, and Hawaii? And exactly what do you think that'll look like? So a big difference between Israel and the United States.
Some of us are old enough that we remember the days of the Nike missile system, where U.S. cities and Air Force bases and where strategic sites were surrounded by missile launchers to provide air defense. Those went away in the 70s. We have to go back to a pervasive air defense, which we've essentially ignored since the 70s. Now, our spy satellite programs, once we were comfortable and realized the Soviets had nowhere near as many bombers we thought they did, and we over a number of years we were pretty confident in the bomber count. We realized, wow, we overestimated by about a magnitude of about 20x the number of bombers they really had. So that was a budgetary decision, shut down all the Nike sites. We can't operate like that anymore with the drone situation, unexplained drones. And that was the Hudson Report. It says the Chinese will strike domestic continental U.S. facilities in addition to Guam, Tinian, Saipan, Hawaii, Alaska. So we need to get back into the mode of providing air defense against drones, against cruise missiles, against hypersonics, against ballistic missiles, against aircraft. We need to get back into that. Now, I don't want to get really wonkish on you, but remember when the Army had the Nike system, the Air Force came out with the Beaumark system, and there was a huge battle between Army and Air Force who should make it. The Air Force's initial concept of operation for deploying the Beaumark cost as much as the entire DoD budget in the year that it was being proposed. Okay, so obviously that was ridiculous. There's no way we have those kind of resources. We have to prioritize. But we have to go back to where we actually have active air defense systems, and the Iron Dome is absolutely one of the elements needed.
I mean, not long ago, I was out in San Francisco a few years ago, and they actually took me to an old Nike Hercules site up on one of the hills that overlooks the city. That's still there. A lot of these little spots are still around the country. I'm sure. The planners are up in the basement of the Pentagon dusting off some old yellow frayed plans and documents that hopefully they're still around anyway, that haven't been digitized and those kind of things. Well, John, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I think you have to go.
Yeah.
Go ahead, tell folks where to book all that.
Thank you, Rob. Well, hey, it's Colonel Ret John 2 on X, Colonel RET John 2 on X, Colonel Ret John on Substack, Colonel RET John on Substack, Getter and True. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, John. We'll see you again soon, I'm sure, because we never run out of things to talk about with Colonel Mills on More War Mondays. It's easy pickings as far as content goes. So we'll be right back. And when we come back, we'll see what President Trump did to Colombia's communist socialist president yesterday, and rightly so, here on Worldview 2.
We begin with breaking news. The United States and Colombia have been pulled back from the brink of a trade war. Tensions escalated after Colombia denied entry to deportation flights arriving from the United States. It led to threats of sanctions and tariffs from both sides. Now the White House says Colombia has agreed to all of President Trump's deportation terms. NBC's Alice Bard joins me now from D.C. Good morning, Alice. So how did this standoff begin?
Francis, a very quickly evolving situation. Colombia's president, Gustavo Petro, took issue with the use of U.S. military planes, saying a migrant is not a criminal and should be treated with the dignity a human being deserves. That led President Trump to threaten tariffs and visa restrictions on Colombian officials. Colombia then threatened to retaliate with tariffs of its own. Now, the White House says Colombia has agreed to all of its terms, including accepting military flights, saying the tariffs will be held in reserve and not signed unless Colombia fails to honor this agreement. For its part, Colombia says it will guarantee deportees dignified conditions. The country's foreign minister is set to travel to Washington in the coming days to meet about the agreement.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday, and we do more than just kinetic war discussions on this show. And let me just read you what President Trump put out yesterday And keep in mind, this was after Petros from Colombia, the socialist, communist, whatever he is down there, turned around 2 deportation flights that he had previously approved. That's the issue, folks. It didn't come out right away. It just came out from the left-wing propaganda media that continues to try to make America look bad and the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, look bad. Here's what Mr. Trump said initially. I was just informed that 2 repatriation flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals were not allowed to land in Colombia. This order was given by Colombia's socialist president, Gustavo Petro, who is already very unpopular amongst his people. Petro's denial of these flights has jeopardized the national security and public safety of the United States. So I have directed my administration to immediately take the following urgent and decisive retaliatory measures. Emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States. In 1 week, the 25% tariffs will be raised to 50%. A travel ban and immediate visa revocations on the Colombian government officials and all allies and supporters. Visa sanctions on all party members, family members, and supporters of the Colombian government. Enhanced customs and border protection inspections of Colombian nationals and cargo on national security grounds. IEEPA, Treasury, banking, and financial sanctions to be fully imposed. These measures are just the beginning. We will not allow the Colombian government to violate its legal obligations with regard to the acceptance and return of the criminals they have forced into the United States. Listen to that very carefully, folks. It is international law. I'm not a huge fan of international law, but there are some things that countries are supposed to be obligated to do. One of them is to accept illegal aliens that are found within one country when they are repatriated back to their home country. That's an obligation under the law, number one. Number two, our State Department, with our new Secretary of State and his small staff that's in place now, negotiated that these 2 aircraft would be landing and bringing these criminals back. Note, the idiot in Colombia occupying the presidency there said that he was worried about the humane treatment of these people. Well, they should be in shackles because they're criminals. And many of them are pedophiles, sex traffickers, dope dealers that are responsible for killing tens of thousands of Americans. They're highly dangerous people, and they have no business to be inside the United States and should be sent home to be imprisoned in Colombia if that's what they want to do. So I don't really give a damn about the type of treatment they're getting as long as it's treatment that's according to international law. And this guy is a complete idiot for trying to insist that he's worried about these criminals who are murderers, thugs, dope dealers, sex traffickers, child traffickers. They're that level of people at this point. It's not about deporting families yet, as Tom Homan has said many times. So let's go over to the audience. I know we got some hands over there. And at some point, I'll read the White House's response after this guy got thumped. Go ahead, Shell.
We have Naomi, sir.
Hi, good morning. Hey, Shale. Hi, Colonel, and your co-host, Rob. I'm excited. I know you are too, Colonel. I refuse to do any whining. But let me ask you this. Everything is moving so fast with the VA and the veterans and COVID-19 and all of the different categories of veterans who are under fire. I want to know what your thoughts are about that, as well as how quickly Secretary Doug Collins jumped in when they found out about all of these reduction letters that came out in December. And thank you. Good to have you back, sir.
Well, I think Secretary Collins is going to be great. He's got good people behind him, some folks that I know personally that are working with him to keep an eye on the VA and make sure they're adequately implementing and properly implementing things like the Mission Act. And these reduction letters are going to be thoroughly reviewed and put under close scrutiny, because that's highly unusual. Quite frankly, as somebody that's been in the VA system for a while now, it's supposed to be very rare when that happens. So I want to know what the heck's going on. And I want to know that Mr. Collins is hiring people that will keep these folks under control, because, Biden rehired about 80,000 bad VA employees that weren't doing their jobs well, that Donald Trump fired in his administration, and all those people need to go. And folks that are really dedicated to taking care of the veterans and their families need to be put in these positions. That I have high hopes that that's going to happen. And things are moving, like you said, they're moving fast, and those kind of things. As far as the COVID stuff and the veterans, the president's signing an executive order today. I have not seen the one he's signing about reestablishing folks that were forced out of the military with back pay back into their positions if they want in the United States Armed Forces. So I can't really comment on the exact detail, but I can tell you that it's a great start no matter what. It is a fantastic start to really fixing the problem. Now, we have our concerns, those of us that have been working this issue for several years, and I've played a small, minor role in working on the issue. One of them is that we think there's well beyond more than 8,900 that were kicked out individuals, and it's upward or probably around 85,000 that were forced out, either kicked out or chose to leave before they were prosecuted, or retired early before they were prosecuted because they were refusing the shot, and those kind of things. And we want to make sure that everybody in that population of about 85,000 military members gets the opportunity to come back if they want, that their records are put in a position where they're competitive for promotion, whether they're enlisted or officer, because as you know, Naomi, timing is everything, especially in the officer corps. So to have lost 2 or 3 years makes all the difference in the world. So there'll have to be some correction of active duty, National Guard, and reservist records to make sure these people are competitive for their next promotion board. Some of them may have to actually be promoted into the next higher rank in order to make them competitive in that. So all of those things, I haven't seen anything in writing along those lines yet, but I know there are draft executive orders out there that helps guide the administration to activate those and helps guide them to address all of those issues. And I think it's going to be done. It's just going to take some time. But thanks for
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just one last thing, and I'll make it quick. On the issue of oh, wow, I'm getting old. I forgot my thought that fast. I'm so excited. I'll come back and catch you later, sir. All right.
Okay, thanks, Naomi. Take one more question before the break, Bill.
Let's go to Patriot Rob, sir.
Hey, Colonel. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible with this question. I have massive concerns about the AI that they want to build in Texas. I know that this Project Stargate has to do with our Iron Dome that you were just talking about. How do you feel about the expansion, massively of AI, and it potentially like growing out of our control, for one, and two, with companies like BlackRock and Oracle having a hand in building this? What do you foresee in this? Am I just being black-pilled, or do I have valid concern?
Your concerns are valid, but look, it's a capability that is here and growing in the United States. It's the only manufacturing capability the United States really is in the lead on in the world today. Is software development, engineering, and fielding, and those kind of things. So it's really the right thing for the United States as a country, for our entrepreneurs in this country to want to take that capability and make it as good as it can possibly be for the betterment of humankind. Does there need to be controls? Yes. Should we trust a company like BlackRock? Absolutely not. We should not. So I have my own concerns about those kinds of things, and I want to make sure that we are adequately controlling it as it becomes developed. Now, look, the bottom line is I'm an old programmer, so I've already learned to code long before many of you were born, people. So I don't want to hear your nitpicking, but it's still code. It's still a computer program. It is not going to become sentient. It's still code. You can see that in the missteps from ChatGPT, the Gemini thing, and Google and all that. Where they couldn't make a white male pope for the imaging. So it's garbage in, garbage out still applies. And the United States is the country that's in the best position to make this a good outcome. So that the human race excels in a safe, effective, and free manner, and not a tyrannical manner like what the left and these authoritarians like the Chinese like to see us. Got to take another break. When we come back, we'll see a little clip about Trump's proposal for the Palestinians in Gaza, which has raised people are raising the roof about it. But you know what? Keep in mind, he's a real estate developer and a construction guy when you hear this. We'll be right back on the Rob Maness Show. It's More and More Monday.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at WVWFoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at WVWFoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at WVWFoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
US President Donald Trump floated a plan to just clean out Gaza and said that he wants Egypt and Jordan, the neighboring nations, to take Palestinians from the territory in a bid to create peace in West Asia. Now, describing Gaza as a demolition site after the Israel-Hamas war, Trump said that he had already spoken to Jordan's King Abdullah and is expecting to speak with Egypt's leader al-Sisi. He said that the move will allow people to live in peace for change. Trump added that shifting the people may be either temporary or could be longer in term. A vast majority of Gaza's 2.3 million people have been displaced since October 7, 2023, often multiple times by the war that began by Hamas' attack on southern Israel on the 7th of October. As per reports, more than 100,000 Palestinians have fled to Egypt to escape the war in Gaza. Hamas and Israel reached a deal for a ceasefire in Gaza under which Israeli hostages will be swapped with Palestinian prisoners. Egypt has previously warned against any forced displacement of Palestinians from Gaza into the Sinai desert, which Sisi said could jeopardize the peace treaty Egypt signed with Israel in 1979. Jordan is already home to around 2.3 million registered Palestinian refugees, according to the United Nations.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. And folks, the president, keep in mind, this man is a construction guy and a real estate developer. And we're talking about this on More and More Monday because the situation in Gaza.
Colonel, your mic is muted.
The situation in Gaza is a result of war. So we're talking about this on More and More Monday. And the president's a construction guy, as I said. So he sees this site as a demolition site. He even used that phrase. And the instinct is to move people off of a demolition site so you can clean it off and then reconstruct, I think is where he's going. Now, the left-wing nut jobs on the globalist side are trying to imply that this will be a violation of the Israel-Egypt treaty, which prohibits forced movement of Palestinians. He didn't say he was going to try to force them to do it. He's actually calling Jordan and Egypt both, their leadership, to get this to see if we can get this done. And he even said that it's probably temporary. It could be longer term, but the site's got to be cleaned before you can start construction again. And in this particular place, the site's not only got to be cleaned, it's got to be excavated to take out, root, and branch the military capability that is in the concrete infrastructure underneath the ground all throughout Gaza. And it's got to be done. Let's go ahead and take some more questions from the audience here on this open mic, More War Monday. Go ahead, Joe.
We have Joseph, sir.
Thank you very much, Shell. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak, Colonel Maness. I did hear you this morning on the morning show. It was really nice to hear you as a guest there. My question is very simple regarding this situation with Israel and these people that are living there. I think Trump understands intrinsically that the system that is currently running, it doesn't work. From a standpoint that these people don't have an ability to rebuild what they have, and they don't know which direction they're going. So which direction do you think Trump should go? And do you think that it would make sense to actually create a diaspora, so to speak, of these people that call themselves Palestinians?
Well, I'm not a big supporter of things like the two-state solution that keep getting spouted by people that have been dealing with this for years and have never fixed it. That's why I'm not a supporter of it. I don't think it'll ever work. However, what could work is if you rid the government of Gaza and the Palestinian Authority of Hamas altogether and prohibit those political parties, like we did the Nazi Party in post-World War II, prohibit them from governing, because it's those people and their approach that led us all to this location, so to speak, and everything. So I'm all for Israel, and I'm sure they will, ponying up to help do reconstruction, as long as they're not replanting Hamas on their border so they can do another October 7th style attack. That's the problem with the ceasefire and the peace agreement. They're having to release like 2,000 or so Palestinian terrorists, which we all know. We've seen this play out for decades and decades now. They're going to go back, and if we allow it, we being the civilized world, including the Arab countries, the moderate Arab countries, if we all allow it, they'll go back and they'll reinstate themselves as a military force. They'll steal from the Palestinian people again. That's what they do. They're like gangsters as far as the government goes. The regular Palestinian people, their kids get indoctrinated so that you got 80% of the population in Gaza supporting the October 7th attacks. Look, it's hard to be empathetic for folks when that's what you're facing, but that's what we're facing. Am I totally opposed to it? No. Is there a possibility that things could work out? Yes. But I also think that Egypt, Jordan, the Saudi Arabians, all the Turks, all need to engage on this matter and try to come up with a solution that doesn't require Israel to give up its ability to defend itself, because as we've seen now, it's just like the Nazi Germans. They're going to try to annihilate that country, and that, in fact, is not what we're going to allow from a United States perspective. And we're going to continue to support the only democracy really in that area that's even close to a free society. So that's where I'm at. I'm skeptical, like things on the ceasefire and all that. I'm a person that's advocated for Israel to go in and either get unconditional surrender or completely take the place over. And if somebody that's Palestinian wants to come back and not be associated with Hamas, sure, that's great. There will be plenty of people from all parts of the Middle East and the rest of the world that want to help put things back right for those people that have lost their home. Hopefully the Arab countries that are very, very wealthy will step up to the plate and get this job done. But honestly, a lot of people in America don't realize that for decades and decades, the other Arab countries have refused to accept the Palestinian people because they know they're terrorists, and it causes great strife inside their own country, and they're afraid that their governments will be taken down by an internal coup from these people. So the concerns are valid too. They really are. But there's a small path to be able to get to a place where we can have peace again, and these people that have been displaced and had to live through this might be able to get to a place where they can be peaceful, prosperous, and free again. But it's a very narrow one. And Mr. Trump he's a pragmatist, and he's a construction and real estate developer. That's the lens he's viewing this through. He's not as concerned about old matters, like trust and those kind of things. He looks at a problem like what we see here, and that causes the media to respond and governments to respond the way they do sometimes before we can get it worked out. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out. One more question.
We have AJ, sir.
Thank you, Shell Colonel. Sisi of Egypt already stated that he will not agree to a temporary or permanent gathering of Gazans into Egypt, but while simultaneously the surviving leaders of Hamas are celebrating in Cairo the release of Hamas terrorists from Israel. So it's just an illustration of how Cairo cannot be trusted, and it's a long tail. But overwhelming majority of the Gazans, so to speak, and also for people in the West Bank, they're all not all, but overwhelming majority of them are Jordanians. So it's a pill that Jordan, I believe, sooner or later, Amman is going to have to learn to swallow, sir. What are your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I've met the king, and he's a reasonable man. And of course, he has other factors playing on what he can actually do and those kind of things. But I agree with you. I think at some point the Jordanians are going to have to wake up and smell the coffee, so to speak, and do the right thing. But their concern is internal coup d'etat against the current government. And then you have another country that's controlled by, Al-Qaeda types, ISIS types, jihadis, basically, right there on the Egyptian border, and then bordering on the other side with Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Syria places. And they're very concerned about that. And everybody that wants to see peace in the Middle East is very, very concerned about that, because honestly, the Palestinians, whenever they have been offered a two-state solution, they haven't accepted it. And it culminated, I'll just take you back to October 7th of 2023. The whole situation culminated right there. And what did they display? Nazi Germany. That's what they displayed. Okay? Matter of fact, they really are worse than the Nazis, because I didn't see the Nazis actually use military operations to intentionally kill Jewish civilians from the perspective of air attacks, infantry, artillery, missiles, and those kind of things. And that's really bad. Well, folks, that's the end of the show today on Worldview Tube and X Spaces simulcast. I'm Rob Maness. Tomorrow is Training Tuesday, and Wednesday, Whistleblower Wednesday. We'll be having Brandon Straka on to talk about his J6 prosecution experience and everything that went along with it. I'll see you then.